Hi everyone, Kim Schofield here, back with another video on my YouTube channel. Today we are featuring products from Wendy Vecchi, and I'm going to be showing you a fun and easy watercolor technique. But before we get started, I am doing a giveaway. Wendy was very kind and sent me a bunch of her products, and so I'm going to share the love. I have some matte minis. This is the brand new celebration set, and I am going to be giving that away. Details for how to enter the giveaway are at the end of the video. Very easy. Just leave a comment on my blog, and there'll be a link in the description. So let's get started with the project. I am just creating a background using the brand new Distress Oxide inks, which I love. Oh my goodness, I was so on the fence. I only bought a few of them initially, and then I think as soon as I got them and tried them out, I went and I ordered more. They have the same very cool properties, blending properties like the regular distress inks, but I love how opaque these are. The coverage is just amazing, and they're really creamy. I don't know, they have such a great feel to them. I love them. The effect with the water and the look of oxide, I think is pretty cool. I do think you can mimic that with the regular distress inks, but because these are kind of so thick, I feel like it shows up more. It's just really cool. So if you don't have them, definitely give them a try. So I am just putting down a couple of colors. This is just a background. A lot of this is going to be covered up. I'm just using some bright colors. I'm going to do a floral image here. So kind of some sky colors, bright colors, that kind of idea in the background. I'm not even being super careful. You can see I'm not even trying to blend out those circles that I get, which you can really easily do just by applying a little bit more of the colors on top. Not real worried about it because so much of it's going to be covered up. So you see that great reaction there, that kind of oxide look when the water hits. Again, similar to the other distress products, just a little bit more intense, I think, with these. So definitely the key to getting some really good effects with this is water. So keep applying the water and then dry it a little bit, and then apply some more, dry a little bit. You can even go back and apply more colors, and that's really how you get some of the great reaction that you see using these inks. I love it. And so you'll see I don't even dry it completely, and then I can even pick up some of that extra water that just spilled onto my craft sheet. And look at that. Doesn't that look so cool? Even some of the best effects, I think, are when you're really using a lot of colors, and it's amazing how you can blend them and you don't get that much of a muddy effect. It's really pretty cool. And so if you get any extra, you can just use a paper towel to blot off the excess there. And now I'm just going to completely dry this. Don't worry about the tag kind of curling up. You can flatten that back out again pretty easily. So I was about to go and add some background stamping, and then I had an idea. Oh, wait a minute. Can I do this with Distress Oxide inks? You see me? Can I take a stencil and a baby wipe after everything's dry and remove a little bit of the oxide inks? Drum roll, please. Yes, you can. So it's very subtle. It's not, you're not seeing really a stark white where I remove that oxide ink, but you get some of that texture, especially in the darker blue areas. And it's awesome. I love that. So just going back in to add a little bit on those darker areas. Look at that. Gorgeous. I love it. Now I can add some stamping in the background. This is a Wendy Vecchi stamp, just some text, just adding a little bit of that. Apologize if my voice is a little off. I am suffering from some allergies, I think, already, which is just not right because it's just April. But man, I've been hurting today with the allergy stuff. Maybe it's cold. I hope not. So adding a little bit of that vintage photo around the edges because everything's better with brown. It should be a slogan, a tagline somewhere. And again, just that nice creamy blendability of those oxide inks. Love it. I don't know if I'll ever go back to the regular distress inks. Don't tell Tim, but I love the oxides. Great. All right, so this technique I've actually seen from another designer here on YouTube, and I will link to her YouTube channel. I'm doing a little bit different than the way she has done it, but I just thought it was very cool. So you have to use your MISTI because I'm using a foam stamp. I'm removing that black foam that comes in your MISTI. And I have Ranger watercolor cardstock. I am stamping on the smooth side. There's a smooth side and a rough side. I am stamping on the smooth side. I have 3 coordinating purple distress inks and green. That's just because that's the color I am going to color my flower and my leaves. And I have a watercolor, or I'm sorry, a water brush. So I am starting with my lightest color, which is the milled lavender. And I'm going to apply that onto the flower. And I'm just making sure that there's no purple ink on the leaves. And then I'll go ahead and press this down. And you're going to want to keep your paper and your stamp in the MISTI. And now I'm going to stamp up the leaves using my lightest color of the green. I think it might have been, olive. Okay, so now I have that stamped and I'm going to completely clean everything off. And now I am going to use my water brush to blend out all of that color. So what I'm going to end up with when I'm finished, this is very pale purple, but what I'm going to end up with is basically the entire background colored purple with very little definition of the design. You'll see it a teeny bit. And almost just, a solid green leaf or 2 solid green leaves and a solid flower. So that's what I'm going to end up with when I'm finished. And of course, these are regular distress inks now that I'm using, and they are awesome for watercoloring. So I'm going to completely dry that. And now I'm going in with my second darkest. This is Seedless Preserves. And again, stamping that again, making sure there's no purple on the leaf. And I'm just using a baby wipe or a paper towel you can use. Love this. Look at that definition that starts to pop out. And then now this is my mid-tone green peeled paint. And now you've got that background color with the darker design on top. So now I'm going back with my water brush again. Now I'm not going to color everything in the way I did before. I'm really focusing more on the darker areas. So I'm going to hit that with the water, which will soften up all those lines and help them blend into the lighter color that's in the background. And so again, by doing this, I'm losing a little bit of the, the very specific lines and designs in the flower. But you will see what happens. So I want to make sure I'm not covering all the areas. I want to make sure that I'm still seeing some of that milled lavender underneath, some of that lighter color. All I'm doing is really darkening up where the shadows are falling. And with this stamp, it's really easy to figure that out because it's already drawn that way. So it's really easy to determine where those shadows are and where your shading is going to be. And I just wipe off the tip of the water brush with my fingers before I go to the next color, or you could scribble off on a piece of paper. And now I'm going to completely dry this again. I want this very dry again. And now I'll go in with my darkest shade. Oh, I think the middle one was Dusty Concord. I apologize. I think this one is Seedless. Seedless Preserves. And look at that. Ooh, isn't it gorgeous? I just love it. The detail is amazing. And then this is Pine Needles. That's going the darkest green. And you really get like these 3 layers of color and definition in the flower. Ooh, now this layer I'm not going to do anything with. I'm going to leave that one alone. So now I'm going to add just a little bit more shading. And I'm using some Distress Stain. And this is what I learned from this other YouTuber. I love the way that she does this. A little bit of stain. And of course, the stain's very watery. I'm only going to do it on the flower. And you can just barely see a little bit of that orange that gets down onto the sides there of some of the petals of the flower. So it almost looks like an antique that gets added to the flowers. And then, so I'm not doing anything with that, just drawing that, and that just adds a little bit of color that you can see there. And now I'm going to cut that flower out. So now I am working with some matte minis, and I have a blending tool, and I am just going to color these up to make them look like bricks. So I have two different reds. I have, I'm trying to remember what this one is. I think Worn Lipstick and Fire Brick. And just applying this with a blending tool. This is the best way to do it. Keep everything in the frame. And so then you could use these bricks with the frame if you wanted to. You could cut part of it out and keep that all together. I ended up taking the bricks out and attaching them separately, but you could keep everything in the frame if you wanted to. But this makes the easiest coloring, just to keep it all there and color it all at once. And then I'm adding just a little bit of brown. This is gathered twigs, just to get more of that real brick look going. Since bricks are not, have many, many tones and colors in them. And I'm adding just a little bit of water to get a little reaction with the distress inks. Again, just to get a little bit more texture in the brick. And I'll just let that sit for a second. You don't want this to be saturated because these will, the matte minis could soak up the water. So just want to do a little bit and then dry that quickly. So don't mind me with this tape on the back. My idea didn't work, so you can just ignore this part. I thought I was being brilliant, but it didn't work out quite the way I wanted. So what I ended up doing was using some gel medium and attach these with the gel medium. So I'd kind of wanted to put one piece of adhesive, but it ended up being just too much of a mess there. But this is how I put them on, individual bricks, one at a time, which is kind of fun. So this allows you to create kind of an uneven wall in the background, kind of, and of course I have mine, so it kind of like it was all broken down. So here's my finished wall and my finished flower. So I did I did two flowers, and I cut out the middle portion so I have some dimension on the flower, and I just layered those with foam tape. And I'm using some more matte minis because my life is not complete without them. I love these things, and especially these little tiny butterflies. And so you can just color that up with the Distress Oxide ink. And you can see my brick wall there over on the left-hand side, my finished wall. I'm going to add a little bit of texture onto the bricks, and which I thought of afterwards, but it worked out great because the matte minis have dimension, so I didn't get any of this ink on the tag. So I was able to just press that right on top of those bricks. And hopefully you can see that little bit of texture. It's very cool. And then I used a Dilutions paint pen. These are awesome, by the way, too. If you don't have them, she has one in black and white. I love them. To create a body for the butterfly, and then I will use the white to just create some little polka dots, little decoration to the butterfly's wings. And then I did end up deciding to add a few little dots onto my bricks. Again, just creating a little bit more of that realistic feel. You know how bricks sometimes have little flecks of white in them. So I just put some of that white paint from the paint pen on there, and only put it where you were going to see. I didn't worry about any of the bricks that were going to be behind the flower. I love these bricks. I got to find other ways to use them. They're so much fun. And I'm just looking at my placement there. Now, because the bricks have the dimension, I did end up going with 2 layers of foam tape to make sure that it was popped up over and above those bricks, which you can see I'm adding there. And I also did the same thing with the butterfly, so that it was really popped up off of those bricks so you could see it. Okay, so I really wanted to have some kind of, I tried to do some stamping on the top and bottom, but I didn't really like it. And I really wanted kind of like a little frame that went across the top and the bottom. So I'm using some new Tim Holtz tissue tape. I really like these. I like the printed words. And so I ended up using that kind of as a frame for the tag. You can see I tested out my stamping on the back of my tag and I thought it was a good idea. And then I did it and it wasn't a good idea. But there is always a solution for fixing anything that you're not too crazy about. So I'm just cutting these pieces, the corners, so that it will fold nicely onto my tag. And this tissue tape really holds very well. It's not a lightweight hold. And I ended up just cutting a little bit where the hole is and putting my fingers through and wrapping the little extra pieces of the tissue tape around so that I had a complete hole. Just looking for something that would fit to push that through. And then I'm able to just attach that in the back. And so that is almost it for my card. I just have a sentiment that I embossed in white with white heat embossing powder. And I used some foam tape to attach that onto my tag. And I did emboss that on black, just a plain black cardstock. And that is it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay tuned for the directions for entering the giveaway. Happy crafting!